Hey people, my name is Yannek Maunz and this is another tutorial on Production Music Live. Today's topic is 3 levels of drum layering: beginner, intermediate and pro. So without further talking, let's hear all the 3 levels in comparison. So here is level 1, beginner. Here is level 2, intermediate. And here is level 3, pro. So without further talking, let's go and dive into Ableton and recreate what we just heard. And I'm working with Organica 3 here, which is out now. Okay, so let's start with the beginner level. Now first we have to pick a kick. So some tonal material here as well. I think we're going to go with kick number 11. Alright, so let's take this kick and we're going to make this whole tutorial here in our arrangement. So let's loop this section, create a MIDI clip by hitting Shift Command and M, and let's just drag in our basic kick. Loop this because it's just hitting on every quarter note, so we don't have to drag our MIDI clip open here. Okay, now you can hear that per default Ableton is in this classic mode, and I would recommend to go in the one-shot mode because in the classic mode this ADSR down here will affect the sound, and this is not what we want here because now it will be cut off at a certain point in time. Have a listen to this, how it sounds now, and then we'll switch to one-shot mode. You can even hear a click in the end. So we're going to switch to one-shot mode. Now also the sub is coming through. I like to fade the kick a little bit in the end and just shorten it just a little bit. You can do this to taste. I think it's very good like this. Alright, so let's create another MIDI channel, clap, and now we're just going to go through our claps right here. And those are like pre-layered claps, so those claps are already pretty good, but I think we can, like on the later stages, we can even make them a little bit better. Okay, so I like to play my kick and then I play my clap with the right arrow key here on top of it, so I can directly hear how it will sound like. And how it mixes up with the kick. Yeah, I think like clap 11 or 5 or 6 work pretty well with this kick together. Alright, so let's just double click here. Let's also choose one-shot mode here so the whole sound gets played. Let's just drag this down here, duplicate the loop, delete the first kick, and now. Okay, let's just drag the volume down here a little bit so it blends nicely with the kick. We can even, like, if you don't like this very small pre-delay down here, you can adjust it. But it's making a little bit of groove, so this is just up to your taste. Alright, so let's create our next MIDI channel and let's insert the hi-hat. Alright, so let's go in our hi-hat section in the Organica 3 sample pack, and as we did with the clap, let's just play it with our drums that we just created so we can hear it in context. Let's just decrease this slider down here, which is the monitoring slider, so the volume of this sample which gets monitored is affected by this slider down here. So if we drag this volume down, our preview will be quieter. Yeah, I think like hi-hat number 5 works pretty well actually. Okay, so we've dragged that one in. Let's go to one-shot mode and let's just drag our kick MIDI down here. Take this to the head position, which is the 8th note, 1/8 note after the quarter, the backbeat, and it's too loud, so let's just drag the volume down here. Alright, So now we can go into our head sample down here and even adjust this starting point. This depends just if you like the head very, very tight or if it can be a little bit more loose. And you're listening for like the interplay between the head and the clap. So that's getting more groovy. If you're tightening it up, then that's the right way. If not, it's the wrong way. Alright, so this was our very, very basic beginner level, which already sounds kind of okay for a start, but we will create even more interest in our intermediate stage. Alright, cool. So welcome to the intermediate level. Now we will add more interest to our drums, because now it's just super basic backbeat that we've programmed. It already sounds good and static, and we can listen to it quite a time, but it's not very full and rich, and there's not too much ear candy inside of it. Alright, so what I like to do, as you may know, is just to create some basic like percussive elements in my tracks. So that's why, of course, I created Organica Free. It's like mainly focused around percussive instruments and loops especially. So I was in a studio with a professional percussionist, and we've created loops, bongo loops, and this is how they sound like. They were all recorded, as you can see, in the tempo of 122 BPM. That's why I will just increase our project tempo here a little bit so they don't get warped. Alright, so now we'll just play back our drum groove. And let's just click through the bongo loops right here. Very groovy. Oh, I like this one. Okay, I like this one, so let's go with the bongo loops 26. Okay, now it's way too loud. Let's track down the volume. You know, you want to, like this very loud one here on the right side, you want this one to be like the loudest. Of course, you want this one to be the loudest part, but the others, they should really blend very smoothly with your instrumental that you currently have. So this is like what I try to hear when I'm mixing them down. Okay, so now it's just creating a little bit more groove. Alright, cool. So now let's get into layering finally. Like, layering is a technique, it gets used by so many melodic and organic house artists. It's crazy, really. You can just add so much interest and depth to your tracks through layering. This was like one of this like secrets that I discovered, I would say, in the last 2 or 3 years of producing. So what is layering? Layering is basically just you have one element which is playing on a certain position, and you layer it, put another instrument or another drum element on top of it. And it's very important that the layer that you put on your element that you already have is not creating something crazy new, and it's not too loud, but you just want to add a little bit of interest here and there. So let's duplicate our clap channel and start by layering the clap with either a percussion or another clap. Okay, so let's duplicate our channel. So we have our clap layer 1, and now we will just use this switch and like here the sample switch button down here to go through our claps very fast, and we'll see which one fits best. So we'll just deactivate this for a short moment. Okay, maybe we have something with a little bit more grip. Already gives more body to our clap. Okay, and that's what I mean. You can even turn the volume down a little bit more. And it adds this really nice tone to the clap. Alright, so that's not all we can do with this layer clap. We can also pan it to the right. So now we will add 2 layers to our clap and to our hi-hat, and pan them to the left and to the right. And if you pan them really hard or not that hard, that's totally up to you. This is just a matter of taste. And in the end, of course, of stereo compatibility, but I'm not worrying too much about this here. Alright, so let's duplicate our layer. So now we can directly take our second clap layer and pan it to the left. You can do this by the same value as the right. Alright, so let's go to our switch button here, and let's scroll through our claps. This makes it really fat. More tonal now. Also good. Like this layer has a very small reverb tail in the end. This one has a very small reverb tail in the end. And I think this adds also to the groove a lot. And a little bit louder. Alright, so let's just group our clap and call this one clap group. And now I will just quickly map this two claps, the on-off of the two clips here on the same button. And then I will directly turn them on and off and you can hear the AB. Okay, so let's go with our standard clap. And let's go now with our layered clap. Normal clap. Layer clap. Okay, and you can already hear it fills up the stereo field a lot more and it gets just a little bit more depth. Through very small changes in music and even in drum productions, you can achieve in the end, you know, if you have a tiny bit here and tiny bit here and a tiny bit here and a tiny bit here and a little bit of here and there, you can achieve a very, very big change in the end. You know, it's just, in Germany we say, Kleinvieh macht auch Mist. Alright, so let's continue by layering our hi-hat. So now we've got our basic hi-hat here. So let's duplicate this channel, call this hi-hat layer 1. And now we'll just go and like hi-hats, you can layer hats with like Foleys, like more like gritty stuff, you know. You can layer hats with other hats and you can layer hats with shakers. So I would like to go into our shaker section within our One-Shot Software Organica sample pack, and then we can just try around with different shakers right here. So we'll just drag in the first shaker that we have here, and I mean, I left some space when I was producing the shakers in the beginning because they have like a beginning phase and then they're also like ending up very smoothly. So we have to see if like we have to readjust the starting point a little bit, but that's something we can see now. Okay, so let's have a listen to our head layer 1, which is now a shaker. Already sounds pretty good. Okay, and now we can enable the delay compensation here, which enables us a pretty cool feature. Now we can like delay our hi-hat layer 1 track by a couple of milliseconds to the left, so in front of time. So now this track will start a little bit earlier and therefore it will be tied with our head, but it won't lose this first upsweep motion here, which is pretty cool because this adds just a little bit of texture to our drum. So I'll just delay this by a couple of milliseconds. And you can already hear how it's thickening up everything. It's a little bit too loud actually. You want it to blend very smoothly with your head. And now we will pan it to the right. Okay, same procedure, different sound. Let's pan it to the left. And let's go through our shakers one more time. Okay, this is not grooving because it's way out of time. This one is quite nice. Let's decrease the volume. Very nice. Okay, so let's just take those 3 hi-hats and we call this hi-hat group. Perfect. So I will just map those 2 hi-hats right here to my key 4 and then I will turn them on and off. Hi-hat without layer. Hi-hat with layer. And it's so much more groovy. It's like really, yeah, it plays together with the clap much better. And now I will deactivate the clap layer and the head layer at the same time, and then we can hear the overall difference that we've made in this intermediate section here. Is this working? Okay. Alright, so now I will turn off all of our layers that we've added in this stage, and then I will turn them on again. So this is our standard groove with the one bongo added. And now I'll dial in all our layers. And you can already feel your head shaking. No layers. Very groovy right now. Okay, so one more step for this intermediate level, which would be just to add a little bit of reverb on our return channel to make the drums a little bit more spacey and glue them together a little bit more. Okay, so we will just take this A reverb here and call it room, and the room reverb is like per default, the definition of a room reverb is most of the time that it's kind of short. So let's shorten this decay up time down to something around, like I would say 200 to 500 milliseconds, but this is totally up to you. This is just like a matter of taste in the end. So I will go about 300 milliseconds. We can even add a little bit of an EQ afterwards. Where is it? Here. Cool. So let's just cut the very lows here, and maybe we want a high shelf filter just to smooth out the highs a little bit, but this is something we can have a look at and listen at in a moment. Okay, so let's add our hi-hat group to this room, and I will just go crazy with this, and then we'll dial it back so we can have a feeling for what's too much and what's the right amount of reverb. Let's go with the clap as well. See, like 600 milliseconds, I think this would be a little bit too much decay time because then the reverb gets super obvious, and I think it's just there to give the heads and the clap some space. Too much? Let's reduce it. Now it's tight. Cool. So this adds a little bit more depth and grittiness to our drums and glues them together a little bit more. So let's finish up this stage, and now we will get to the very interesting stage, which is the pro level of drum layering, and I'm super happy to go into this stage, and yeah, let's have some fun. Let's go. Alright, so welcome to the third stage. This is the pro level stage of drum layering. So now we will make quite some pro steps right here. But first we will add more percussive elements, and we will add more layers that glue together our whole track a little bit more. So first of all, we're going to add some shaker and background loops that just add a little bit of interest in the very back of your track, okay? So when you're adding those loops, you really have to watch out that the main elements that you have, which are now our clap, our hi-hat, our bongo and our kick, that they're still up front, okay? So we really want to make a huge dynamic difference between our layers that we're adding now and our main elements. Okay, so let's go into the Organica sample pack, and we'll go to the loops section. And I've created a folder called Organic Top Loops. Those are all loops that are perfectly for this case. So I would recommend you to just drag down the volume of your monitor a little bit so you can already hear them at a very low volume, and you can hear what kind of background noise they will add to your track. Okay, so let's just turn this down quite a bit. This is just a random number I'm typing in here. And now let's start our loop again and start a loop here. Still too loud, so let's lower the monitor mix a little bit. It really should be in the background. And one more. Yes. Still a little bit too loud. Let's just reduce this volume even more. This one is working quite well, so let's add this loop here. Now it will be really loud, so let's just turn down the volume here to 30 dB or something. It really should be in the back. Okay, so let's open up this clip here, so it's playing throughout the whole time. Let's call this background top loop 1. Let's just save for a moment, and now we can pan this loop to our left or to our right. Cool, so now we will add another one. Let's have a listen, and let's dial in another one here in our preview. Cool, this one sounds pretty good, and same procedure right here. Let's turn this down a lot. Let's drag this one open here and let's pan it to the right. Alright, so now we can group this channel and call this background loops. And you know, you can go on with this like quite a lot. So we will do this now, and I'll just go through our loop section here and we'll just see which loop will complement our track the best. So let's check out some hats here. Let's just make this a little bit louder, the monitor. Yeah, this one adds just a little bit of like reality to our groove. So let's turn this one down as well. And I will just let's do a wrong example. Let's just drag this volume up until it's too loud. Okay, so now it's super loud and up front. So this is way too loud. Let's drag it down. Now it's getting in a region where it's on a good level. Still too loud. You know, like the open ones, they're very loud. I mean, you could even go in there and just like cut this with Command and E and just drag them down a little bit so they don't pop out too much. Cool. Okay, so now I will just map this to the key 5 and then we can A/B it for a short moment. Okay, so without our background loops. It's groovy, it's cool, it's okay. Now with our background loops. The shaker loop on the right is a little bit too loud here. This should really just blend. Maybe we can... Okay, that's perfect. Cool. So this is like core essence of layering, okay? So really you can go crazy with this. Like I've seen tutorials of very like well-known melodic house producers, and like this is what they do. They take like their layers and they layer them over each other, and then take the top layer of their last track and layer it over that, and this they go on with this stuff for quite some time. Cool. So now we're in stage 3, which means Pro, and I mean now I think we have some thickness, we have some fullness in our track, but I think it's lacking a little bit of interest arrangement wise. So let's just duplicate our whole section. Now we have an 8-bar long loop, and now we'll add some fills. And this is like the section in Organica where I'm super proud of. This worked out so well. Thank you, Sebastian. He's the percussionist who recorded all this stuff. And yeah, I'm just happy about it. Let's have a listen to our bongo fills. And really, like what I like to do is I just pick any of this. Let's just pick a couple of them and I just drag them into the project. Sometimes with fills, because they're so groovy, you have to go inside and you have to check if it's like analyzing the BPM right. Because they're all groovy. If they're not groovy, Ableton is analyzing the BPM wrong here. And it's all 122. Okay, cool. So now we can just reduce the volume here of our fill track a little bit and have a listen what those fills are doing with our drum loop. Cool, so let's start. Way too loud. See, here it's 102 BPM, and that's wrong, it's 122. Cool, that's a good one. Maybe we'll change this one here. Perfect. And you can even like stack different fills on top of each other. I mean, they have to kind of work together, but this is something you can check out. So I will cut this one here. 122. Okay. Cool. So one thing I like to do with those kind of fills is I'll just also group those, and I will add a delay here or an echo, whatever feels best or feels right for you. This really does not matter too much. Okay, so where is the echo? So let's just turn down the dry and wet here. I think it's fine like with this dotted eighth note, which are there as a default. Now you have a little bit of a delay in the end. Let's just decrease the dry and wet here a little bit. You know, it's just not too sudden. It's not stopping too suddenly. Alright, so let's add some more elements. We will add a tom to our groove. So let's check out the tom folder. Cool. Let's take this one. I think it's fine. Maybe we can like take a drum rack and we put some of the like all toms in there. And like if you're not sure about, like if you don't trust your ear, you can just use a tuner and then, you know, just tune them with the tuner. Works better with like this one, for example, works pretty well. Some of the toms, they are a little bit like atonal, and could be the case that you cannot tune or it's not showing up in the tuner. Then you have to do it by ear. But this is just a small trick. Okay, so let's turn down the volume here of the tom track a little bit, and now we'll just drag this one here. We can, by hitting Command and J, we can like consolidate this whole clip. Now it's longer, and now we can add like some like ghost notes here and there. Could be the same tom, could be another tom. This is just something you have to try, like by trial and error. And I like to add like the ghost notes. I like to add them at a like, of course, at a lower velocity. So now we have in the end of our track, we have a little bit of like also a tom fill kind of a pattern. Cool. So let's check out the percussion folder here. Let's just create another MIDI track, call this perk. And now we will insert a drum rack and just take a bunch of those percussions. Let's just take them all. Why not? Why not? Why not? So now we will just create a MIDI clip right here, and now we'll continue with our layering method. So we'll just create like, I mean, we can do this like basic dancehall rhythm, which works like in, it's crazy, it works in every kind of like electronic music genre. It's like this: you take the first like 16th note. Oops. You should take a sample that's a little bit more tight than this one. Let's enable the monitoring here so we can hear. And I like to not like do it every time, every bar. I think, you know, we can use something else here. Let's use different velocities, and now we can layer this sound. We can even layer only at the second time. You have to watch out, like some of those one-shots, they're very nice, but they're just taking a little bit longer time, so they don't fit into the grid very well. You can even go in here and just drag the starting point a little bit manually. Let's just turn down the volume here. Okay, another percussion right here. Okay, maybe here. You know, and if you discover some nice sounds here that you like, I was thinking like, oh, this could be a nice hi-hat layer as well. Of course, why not? Let's just take this and layer it on top of our layered hi-hats up there. You know, there's no, like, from now on, as long as it's not too like clashing with anything too hard, and that would be only the case if it's super loud. Layer, layer, layer. We can even layer like on the position of this, like this tom here. Perfect. That sounds good. This one is a little bit loud, pops out too much. Alright, so let's just go into our loop section one more time and layer in another percussive loop. Let's just increase our monitor here so we can hear it clearly. Yeah, it's funny, it's very busy, so this depends on the style you want to produce. Oh, this one is nice. Yeah, very in the background. Let's lower the volume. Like that. Just adding a little bit of interest. Alright, so we've called this added drums. So, okay, I will just add this group, the on-off button of this group, to our key 6, and then we can just bypass it, and now we can go through our stages pretty easily. Okay, so this was our first level. Then we've added clap head layers, the back, like the bongo loop and the room reverb. After that, we've added the background loops and our added drums. Oops, excuse me. So let's just deactivate this all for a moment. Super, you know, it's okay, you know, it's okay, but now the brain is like, oh, okay, now something's happening here, something's happening there. Okay. Okay, and now you can expand this to our, you can expand this to an always higher level. You know, you can go and duplicate this whole arrangement here. Let's go drag this open. Now you can add even more fills. You know, you can start varying those fills, and it's so easy because you can just go into your bongos. Where are the fills? Bongo fills, and I mean, they're not only bongo fills, there are also congo and timbale fills. There's so much to explore here. And then you just go in there and you add another one in the end, you know? This can really, like, man, this can spice up your production instantly. But yes. Okay. So, you know, just adding fills here and there. Then we can go on our percussion thing. We can just consolidate this, and now we can add, you know, just you go somewhere and you add little bits. You know? And this is making it really interesting because people are waiting that, you know, like the ear will try to catch this point where this drum is coming. Oh, this could be a nice head clap layer. Okay, so I think you get the point. So let's get to one last thing because we finished this tutorial, which is transient control. The more you layer, the more transients you will have. And transient are per se like something that's good, you know, good for your track, but not always something that you don't want too much transient in your final mix, because what will happen if you go to your master channel, and I will just add a Pro L right here from FabFilter. So if you have a look at you just have a look here. Those are the transients that are getting displaced. The transients are just the very first like 30 to 50 milliseconds of your sound, you know, like where the spike is. You see, like when the clap is hitting, this gets really, really loud. Like together with the kick, all the sine waves that are making up this sound, they are getting added to each other. What we want to do is we dynamically want to control those peaks. So if we go into our clap group, your transient in the very beginning, and without too much of like a tonal effect to it. So you're not really hearing the effect too much, okay? So you have to be very cautious about this. We will just try this. So let's insert a saturator into our clap group, and the only thing we're going to do here is we'll just drive this saturator by 15 dB and we'll reduce the output by 50 and just bypass this. Okay, so now we have our normal clap transient here. Now we will add our saturator. You can see visually, like this is like, now it's peaking with our saturator is peaking at like -15, and without it it's like at -12. So we've and there's no crazy decrease in perceived volume, okay? Not too much. So now you can increase the drive again, so you're like shaving off a little bit of the peaks. Of course, we have to decrease our output afterwards, so you're giving in 18, shaving off the peaks, and then you're reducing by 18, so we're not getting louder because we want to reduce our dynamic range without making too much difference in our perceived loudness. Now it's getting audible, so I think 15 was pretty good. Perfect, so now we've made up like, and this 3 dBs that are now like missing here, those are like, if you do 3 dBs in every of your like groups, and even in every of your drums, you will get a lot of like headroom back, you know? And then overall in the master, it won't sum up too hard, and then you can push the master a little bit higher. So this is why we're doing this. So this is a good trick to control the dynamics, to push your master even higher in the end. And like how much you want to do this, like in like bass house music and in like really like EDM-ish productions, they would smash this stuff. Alright, so let's just go quickly, let's just copy the saturator over to our head group. Okay, now we'll, like, the heads are a little bit quieter, so now we have to give a little bit more drive. Let's go with 20 dB, decrease it by 20 dB. So now, I mean, it's pretty hard to read for me. So now we're at like, what's it, -20 or something? Now we're at -15. So without a big audible effect, we've made 5 dB. Cool. So let's take this one to our background loops. I mean, they're very quiet, so they will not sum up in the master too high, so we don't have to clip them. But our edit drums could be interesting. Okay, we have to give a little bit more in here. And you can see it like right here, you can see that like the tom got shaved off a little bit. And I mean, if you listen to the elements like in detail and solo in a very high volume, you will hear that the clipping is adding some distortion to your element. But in the total mix, I doubt it that you will hear it too crazy. Alright, cool. So this is like how you can get headroom back from your mix, and then you can push your limiter a little bit higher. So you know, like this is how I would go about like producing in a very high LUFS volume. That would be like maybe even in the mastering like volume loudness direction, you know, like I can, if you clip your stuff right, and please let me know if you want to hear more about clipping and all this stuff, because this is just very, very basic approach now. I just don't want it to go crazy here. Let me know in the comments, then we can do another tutorial on how to achieve very loud mixes without like with clipping and without like even having a like crazy mastering on the chain. Alright, so let's have one more listen to our 3 stages, and then we're finished with this tutorial. And I thank you so much for watching. If you want, you can check my sample pack Organica free out on Production Music Live. We will link it in the description below or somewhere here. And I'm happy to be back here, and see you soon. Bye bye. So here is our beginner stage. here is our intermediate stage. And here is our pro stage. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.